The walnut orchard north of Los Molinos sat under a lid of low fog, thick and orange at its edges, like fire smothered beneath glass. The Scarecrow stood alone among the rows, burlap head bowed, hat stitched to its skull, arms stretched wide on a splintered post that leaned against the wind. Its coat was torn down the back, packed with straw so old it had begun to mold. For years, it had been nothing more than a shadow marker for the crows, a fading joke nailed above the roots. But tonight, the orchard didn't feel empty. It watched. A sound rose from the soil. Not wind, not the rustle of branches, but a low, muffled breath. The ground itself seemed to inhale, swelling once beneath the Scarecrow's boots before settling again. A mouse darted from the leaves and dropped dead mid-stride. Worms surfaced, writhing against the cold air, their bodies drying and splitting as if the dirt had turned against them. At the far end of the orchard, between the trunks, a faint orange flicker pulsed. It wasn't the moon or a lantern. It moved too slow, too deliberate. The light drifted left, then right, bending against the breeze, its glow leaking through the fog like blood through gauze. The trees leaned toward it, and their shadows reached farther than they should have. The Scarecrow's head tilted. Burlap stretched until the seam at its neck snapped open with a soft tear. A single nail squealed loose from the post. The wood shuddered. Then came the whisper, the first in years, threading through the rows, soft as soil shifting. Up. A crow launched from a branch and vanished into the mist. The fog began to roll against the wind, crawling up the rows toward the town lights. The distant orange glow, the Light Father's wandering flame, flared once, bright enough to cast a moving shadow across the Scarecrow's chest. The thing on the post twitched. Its arms strained against their bindings, straw spilling like dust from split seams. The head turned a fraction, just enough for the button eyes to catch the glow. Crack. The right wrist came free, then the left. It hung for a moment, half crucified, swaying as the fog thickened around its legs. The soil below it bulged upward, a heartbeat swelling under the earth. When it finally stepped down, the mud gave way with a wet sigh, leaving behind two deep smoking footprints that hissed as the cold air touched them. The orchard fell silent. No crows, no frogs. Only the faint hum of that far-off walking light. The Scarecrow straightened. The wind passed through its hollow chest, making a low moan that almost sounded like laughter. Then, slowly, it turned its head toward Los Molinos, toward the dim glow of street lamps and the flicker of Halloween decorations still burning past midnight. It took one step forward, then another. Behind it, the wooden post splintered in half, collapsing into the dirt like a grave marker finally giving up its name. The Scarecrow walked. Each step pressed deep into the orchard mud, and each footprint filled itself back in seconds later, as though the ground were ashamed to show where it had been. The rows of walnut trees leaned slightly, their leaves trembling though there was no wind. Fog clung low to the earth, thick enough to hide the Scarecrow's legs to the knees, moving with it like a cloak that breathed. At the fence line, the orchard ended and the cornfield began. The stalks were dry and tall, their husks whispering to each other in the dark. Between them, faint cracks of motion shimmered under moonlight, something pacing, but not human. The Scarecrow paused, its head cocking to one side. A shape moved parallel through the corn, wrong-shaped, tall and narrow, elbows bending the opposite way. It didn't walk with the wind, it walked against it, every movement backward, each step dragging sound out of the air. For a heartbeat, the two things faced one another across the barbed wire. The Scarecrow's button eyes reflected pale orange. The other shape had no eyes at all, just two slits that caught moonlight like mirrors turned the wrong direction. The stalks bowed outward as it passed, bending away from it like worshippers too frightened to touch their god. The Scarecrow did not move. It only tilted its head farther, as though listening. Then, from deep within the corn, came a low rustle, the sound of 1,000 dry hands clapping once. The wrong-shaped thing lowered its head and slowly sank into the earth, the corn swallowing it whole. Only the stalks remained, swaying as if something enormous had crawled beneath them. The Scarecrow stared at the spot for several seconds before taking another step forward. A faint orange glow flickered again somewhere far ahead, the same wandering light from the orchard. It pulsed twice, as if beckoning. The Scarecrow climbed the ditch, scraping its straw-packed hands along the barbed wire until fibers tore free. The scent of scorched earth rose behind it. The fog rolled upward, following. When it reached the pavement of Meteor Road, the asphalt steamed under its feet. A distant pickup rumbled by, radio humming a static-bitten country song. The driver's head turned instinctively toward the field, but the lights caught nothing except rows of trees and a patch of moving mist. Behind him, in his rearview mirror, something stood in the road, tall, crooked, hat brim bent forward like a sneer. By the time he blinked, it was gone. The Scarecrow had already turned toward the faint halo of streetlights ahead, toward Los Molinos, its limbs creaking as if remembering how walking felt. Each footfall left a faint hiss, like steam escaping a pipe. The glow on the horizon pulsed again, brighter now, drawing it on. Somewhere behind, the orchard exhaled once more. The wooden post that once held the Scarecrow upright cracked apart completely and sank into the soil, swallowed by the earth that had set it free. Josephine Street was quiet after midnight. The fog lay low over the cracked pavement, thick enough to turn the streetlights into dull orange halos. From the alley behind the church came the sputtering hiss of a spray can. Marion Mapes stood barefoot in the gravel, painting another maple leaf silhouette across the side of his van. The outlines overlapped like camouflage, black, brown, green, forming what looked like leaves eaten by shadow. He hummed as he worked, something halfway between a hymn and a curse. Every few lines he paused, tilted his head and whispered, "You still there, old father? You still hungry?" Marion hadn't slept in 3 days. The inside of his trailer was packed with jars of dirt, each labeled with a name, old friends, pets, a deputy. He believed the soil listened better when fed stories. Tonight, he was feeding it a new one. The humming stopped. The fog rolled down Josephine, thickening until it looked solid. Marion lifted his head. "Ah," he said softly. He sent a hand. Through the haze, a figure approached, tall, bent, shoulders jerking with every step. Straw trailed from its sleeves, catching on the asphalt. The hat sagged low over a burlap face, and beneath it glowed 2 faint orange points, pulsing like embers in rhythm with the fog. Marion's grin widened. He didn't step back. He stepped closer. "You came out of the road, didn't you? I told him you would." He dropped the can, arms wide. "The harvest walks. Oh, Azazel, you sly old bastard. You sent the Scarecrow to prune the town." The thing stopped at the end of his driveway. It didn't breathe. It didn't blink. It simply leaned, ever so slightly, as if the weight of Marion's voice pulled it forward. Marion began circling it like a priest blessing an idol. His bare feet crunched over gravel and fallen leaves. "See, I've been telling them, Father," he said, eyes glassy. "The dirt remembers, every nail, every scream. You're just taking back what's yours." The Scarecrow's head turned with a slow creak, following him. The orange flicker inside its eyes brightened for a heartbeat, and the seams along its neck split wider, releasing a hiss of cold air that smelled like wet hay and rusted nails. Marion froze, trembling, not with fear, but reverence. "Oh, I hear you," he whispered. "You're speaking through it, aren't you? I'm listening, always listening." He knelt, pressed his forehead to the ground, and whispered into the mud, "Feed the roots. Feed the Father below." When he looked up again, the Scarecrow was walking past him, slow and deliberate, its boots whispering through the fog. It never turned back. Marion laughed quietly to himself, voice cracking. "Go on then," he said. "The soil's ready. The offering's waitin'. Go make the ground proud." He stood there long after it vanished, staring down Josephine Street as the mist began to pulse faint orange again. Then softly, like a prayer, "He's awake again. Azazel's awake." The Scarecrow reached town just before 2 a.m. Los Molinos slept beneath a blanket of low fog and flickering porch lights. Halloween decorations still clung to fences and telephone poles, sagging webs, plastic bats, paper skeletons moving faintly in the mist. The Scarecrow drifted down Center Street like something the town itself had forgotten to bury. Dogs barked once, then fell silent. Curtains moved. Radios clicked off mid-song. By the time it reached the elementary school, the fog had grown thick enough to swallow the swing sets whole. One light burned in the entire building, a rectangle of warm yellow on the second floor. Inside, Mrs. Allen sat alone at her desk in the art room, red pen tapping against a pile of drawings. She had stayed late to finish grading the Halloween projects. The room smelled of glue, tempera paint, and the faint sweetness of the caramel apple she hadn't eaten. She looked up when she heard the scraping. At first, she thought it was a branch tapping the window. But when she glanced out, she saw a shape beneath the parking lot lamp. Tall, still, the brim of a hat cutting a black triangle across the light. For a moment, she thought one of the kids had left a scarecrow from the Harvest Festival out there. Then the light flickered. Once, twice. The fog behind it glowed orange, as though a candle flame were moving through it. The Light Father's glow, wandering slow between the trees beyond the school fence. Mrs. Allen frowned, leaned closer to the glass. "Who's out there?" she whispered. The bulb overhead buzzed and dimmed. Paper cutouts hanging from the ceiling began to sway. A faint thump came from the vent above her desk, then another. She looked up just as a few strands of straw drifted down, spinning through the light like ash. The smell hit next, damp earth and mold, with a metallic tang underneath, like rusted nails left in rain. The papers on her desk fluttered, as if from a breeze no one else could feel. Her reflection in the window twitched a half-second late. She blinked, leaned forward, and the reflection leaned back. The stitched mouth smiled first. Mrs. Allen gasped and stumbled from her chair, knocking over the stack of drawings. The reflection didn't move. It just stared, its button eyes glowing faintly orange. The hallway lights flickered once. Outside, the orange glow swelled, bright enough to cast shadows through the fog. Shapes of figures moving just beyond sight, circling the school. Inside the art room, the bulb popped. The room went black. Only the window glowed faintly from outside, that same steady orange pulse crawling along the glass like a heartbeat. When the janitor unlocked the door at dawn, the art room was empty. Mrs. Allen's papers lay scattered across the floor, and the window was smeared with a thin layer of dirt, as though something wet and heavy had pressed against it. Pinned to the corkboard above the desk was a single child's drawing. It showed a stick-figure teacher standing beside a scarecrow under a red sky. At the bottom, written in crayon, were 4 words. It followed the light. Dawn came slow to Los Molinos. The fog hadn't lifted. It just thinned, curling around the rooftops and drifting across the playground like breath held too long. The first bell hadn't rung yet. The town was quiet, except for the distant hum of a tractor starting somewhere near the river. The janitor stood beside the sandbox behind the elementary school, cigarette trembling between his fingers. He'd called the sheriff twice, then hung up both times. There was no word for what he'd found. Something new stood in the center of the playground. It was a scarecrow, taller than the others from the Harvest Festival, its body shaped with uncanny precision. The face was stitched from burlap, the mouth sewn tighter than before, seams pulling into a permanent puckered frown. It wore a faded cardigan that everyone recognized. Mrs. Allen's. The breeze tugged at its sleeves, but the arms didn't move, not even a sway. Its button eyes caught the sunrise and reflected a faint orange glow, pulsing like dying embers deep inside. By 8 o'clock, the children had gathered behind the fence, whispering. Some said the new scarecrow appeared overnight. Others said they'd seen it walk across the yard just before dawn. The principal told them to go back inside, but none of them wanted to turn their backs to it. Down the street, Marion Mapes's van rolled to a stop. The exhaust coughed, belching gray smoke into the mist. He sat behind the wheel, grinning through the cracked windshield. He whispered to no one in particular, or perhaps to something only he could hear. "Look at that," he said softly. "See what happens when the father below wants a gift?" He pressed his palm to the steering wheel, eyes flicking toward the Scarecrow. She fed the roots, and now the roots feed back. Balance restored. Behind him, the fog along Josephine Street thickened again. For a moment, it formed a tall, lean silhouette. Long arms bending backward through the haze, head cocked at an impossible angle. The stalkwalker. It didn't move closer. It simply watched. Out by the orchard's edge, a faint orange shimmer pulsed once more. The Lightfather's wandering glow, drifting between the trees like a restless soul still searching for a place to burn. Marion laughed under his breath, whispering, "All his hands at work. One to walk, one to watch, one to burn." He put the van in gear and drove off, disappearing into the orange light. Back at the school, the janitor finished his cigarette, dropped it, and crushed it under his boot. When he looked up, he froze. The Scarecrow's shadow was swaying, not from wind. There wasn't any. The real figure stood still, but the shadow moved like something inside it was breathing. A faint sound rose from the soil beneath the sandbox, a soft, rhythmic pulse, almost like a heartbeat. The janitor took a step back. The fog rolled over the playground again, thicker this time, swallowing the figure in pale orange. When it cleared, the Scarecrow was still there. Its head tilted just slightly toward the school, and though no one was near enough to hear it, the dirt below whispered a single word, dry, hollow, and certain: "Up." Thank you for stepping into the shadows with us. If you enjoyed this tale, subscribe to Sinister Phantom Tales, and make sure to like and share this story with your bravest friends. New hauntings emerge every night, so stay close. The next tale may be darker than the last. Every story you hear is original, born from the blood-soaked soil of Tehama County, the cursed woods of Lassen National Forest, and the ancient secrets beneath Mount Shasta. These are not just stories. These are sinister phantom tales. Sleep tight.